of those days gone by now. So music in the air. Life was good then it had meaning. We danced without a care. There I met you, my closest friends, whose eyes I'd seen before. We had
It is now post time for the Friday football feast. Getting funky on a Friday. Let's begin festivities with one of the great defensive players in the history of Minnesota Vikings football. And let's also make it the marathon segment, courtesy of FVP Batteries and FVPparts.com. Good morning, it's Paul Allen. Feasting with y'all, Mad Producer by my side, and Chad Greenway by our side. Chad Greenway, former linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings, representing Grey Duck Vodka and Grey Duck Spirits. And while at TCO Stadium last night, taking in the night practice, did you hear it? Did you hear the whispers middle of the practice? I mean, things were heading a direction during the practice last evening where the likes of the nickel linebackers for the 2009 Minnesota Vikings. I mean, one of the best teams in the history of this storied franchise. I looked up in the stands and there were smiles on the faces of the likes of Chad Greenway and Ben Lieber when the whisper emerged, and it was very, very quiet and it was very short. But I heard it and it went, defense, defense, defense. Defense. I mean, seriously with that thing last night?
Yes.
I mean, like the amoeba. I mean, just the 3-4 hybrid with floaters.
Yep.
Byron Murphy sneakily blitzing off the edge. Who knew how fast he could get into the backfield? The quarterback may have been sacked once or 5 times. Brian Flores in front of a packed house at TCO Stadium in Eagan, Minnesota last night. He had that defense humming, man. And good morning.
And good morning. Yeah, I was first of all, great night last night. Just beautiful weather. Kind of cooled off a little bit. You look beautiful down there on the field. The hair was flowing. It's so fun for me to get back and just see the staff and see everybody shake hands and say hi. But when I got in the stands and you got to watch, I love the energy of the team. I love the focus. Guys were locked in. Guys were working. I noticed a lot of pressure, a lot of people around Kirk. And I think I like that just because you're starting to get an idea of what this defense is going to look like. And I think you can tell they're organized. You can tell they're excited. And you can just see with the personnel, the young bucks we have coming up, there's a lot of exciting players that I think are going to make an impact this year that people didn't really know about before.
And you having played in the games and been on the sidelines, this is a team that is seeking youthful exuberance. So it's clear the general manager, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, is looking to get younger in certain spots and looking to shed some money from the salary cap. So he actually one off season does not have to go through couch cushions looking for nickels, dimes, and quarters to bring in somebody.
Got some boys to pay coming up too.
Well, so therefore, even for those who are going to be in the practice squad or those who are not going to make the team, and we've seen it, at least I've seen it at some practices this year. This is a loud defensive bunch.
Yep.
I mean, they're joyous, they're celebratory, they have a connectivity when things don't go well, where Flores has them, in essence, meeting in quick twitch fashion and galvanizing situations to try to make it better quickly. And this, at this stage of the run, I mean, you've played football a long time, you followed football a long time, and I've covered it or called it for quite some time. Is you think it's fair to say people like you and I and some of the old schoolers, we covet and crave new. When you see new, and that I've just never been next to a defense that executes the way this one does. Now, this is in no way to say we're sitting on 85 Bears. We're sitting on 2,000 Ravens. It's not that. It's just the way they move around, and you don't exactly know where people are going to be.
Yep.
And certain players Well, they execute their toil in positions that are not like what their positions are on the depth chart in Good Morning.
Yeah, I got to meet Kate Kwesi last night. Love his approach, just his mentality. I had not met him yet. And just to shake his hand and get his energy, man, that energy that he carries with him is going to resonate through this organization. And I didn't realize that until I met him last night. He's just got this excitement about him. He's got this kind of the spirit, I don't even know how you describe it, but I love just his energy. And I think, the team can really feed off of that. And I think when you get now fast forward, you get a guy like Brian Flores that comes in. I have to watch that tape back from last night to truly understand what we're even doing. And I like that because you're throwing some things on the wall to see what sticks, to see what the personnel can do. And when I watched last night, I got a lot of that energy and excitement and kind of the vocal spirit coming from the back end.
Yeah.
The DBs.
I'm glad you said that.
And
this is the most youthfully fired up and engaged I've seen Harrison Smith.
Love him.
And in years. And this is not a slighted hitman. He's one of my all-time favorites. But, I mean, he's barking at young guys. Yeah. He's pointing people. He's running up and feigning an A-gap blitz and then ending up like as a shadow kind of, right, a shadow kind of guy to an inside receiver. It's unpredictable, it's new, and it's fun.
Yeah, here's the one thing, and again, that's the biggest question mark going into the season, so it's what we're all watching and kind of anticipating to see. We know we have some weapons on offense. We know we have some things there in structure-wise that we feel really good about, especially with the way O'Neal looked last night. Love that.
Right.
And I would say this. All the great defenses that I was a part of, I'm not sure if we can call any of them really great, but, the better ones I was a part of, the vocal leadership, the excitement, a lot of that came from our interior defensive line or our defensive line. And it kind of trickled back in through the defense because those guys up front are what really stirs the drink. Your back end can be as good as you want to be. You can have Sauce Gardner and all these DBs outside, but you can only cover for so long. The energy got to come from up front. So still, as many great things as I saw, I love what I saw. I'm so excited about this team and this defense to see what it's going to be. I really am concerned with our front. And I want to see, not concerned in a way where like we don't have the guys to do it. I just want to see it. I want to see it in a game situation. I want to see how we react.
I see what you're saying.
And go from there. Because I think that's inevitably going to determine our defensive success, is the success of our front.
And Zadarius Smith he's a defined pass rusher, and he's quite accomplished at it. And so is Daniil Hunter. He's late to the scene. But the thing that I like about the totality of the offseason coming up to a preseason game on Thursday where, none of your favorite Vikings will probably play in that game. Likewise for Tennessee or Arizona, then they dust them all off for Kyle Trask and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Flores, he recognizes that potentially exactly what you're saying. But he's had months to work with it. So therefore, if I don't have Chris Jones, and if I don't have Von Miller reincarnate, or I don't have another guy over here, at least there's plenty of time to work with what you do have to maximize the best of it off what you're saying.
Absolutely. And I think you have that time to work with. Now you've been through the offseason, you see what you actually have, and then what pieces of your puzzle can you put together where your personnel fits? And now, hey, this is what we got, right? And this is what we're going to go to war with. Now, how do we implement them the correct way? How can we get pressure when maybe we can't manufacture it individually? Having Daniil back, it certainly helps a ton. The piece about Zadarius that we're going to miss is he's just this personality. He brings an energy, a moxie, a confidence to the defense last year that I don't know where we pull that from. And Daniil certainly has a little bit of that, but I felt like he maybe fed off of Zadarius as well. So again, I thought Zadarius on the exit strategy wasn't great. Didn't love the approach. Didn't love anything that happened about it. But when he was here and when he was one of us, right, I liked the energy he brought to that defense. Now, who's going to replace that?
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be Unique Ngakoue, and you remember Unique Ngakoue. I mean, we have no pass rush. We got injuries. 2020. It's the pandemic season. No fans are at the stadium. So was Unique Ngakoue really here for part of the season? I mean, I got respect for somebody who can continue. He got a 1-year, $10.5 million deal from the Chicago Bears yesterday. And I mean, it's in all my days calling them, all your days playing in it, analyzing it, and following it. We've come across one-trick ponies before. I mean, he personifies one-trick pony about as great as I've ever seen. He is a pass rusher with maybe 2 moves. He's not the bull rush guy like Everson where he's going to push you back. When it comes to keeping contained, that's really not his preference. And stopping the run, he's not noteworthy for
optional.
That. But nevertheless, he keeps getting fat deals year after year. I got respect for that.
I saw that and it's like, I got to go dust. Can I reinvent myself and put on 30 pounds and maybe dust off the old pads for a $10.5 million deal?
Unbelievable.
It just makes you look at what is valued in this league and, where the ongoing kind of dispute with running backs and their pay and how that's going on. And you just see maybe the over estimation of the value of these pass rushers. And it just matters, though, right? Can you get a guy in third down that can come in and where the offense now has to scheme to chip its way out because Ngakwe's got a little bit of history to be able to make some, to create some problems. Can you run some blitzes on the opposite side of him to kind of give something a different look? And the money they're throwing around for those teams that have to have another pass rusher. It's just, it's vital. And, he certainly, I don't see that working out.
So the team is at Seattle to start preseason Thursday. It's a 9:00 boom on KFAN, 7:00 for the pregame. What do starters like Hitman and Cousins and Jefferson like those who are going to play the most and players on whom the team and fans will count the most? Well, I'd be flabbergasted if they played in any of those games. But what do you guys, those of your variety, what do you do during those games, the preseason games, when you're not going to play?
Yeah, back in my day, we had the 4 preseason games, and you would play a series in game 1. You'd play about a quarter in game 2. You play a half in game 3, and you sit out in game 4. That was kind of the MO of every year once you were kind of established starter. Now with this new setup, I don't think they're going to probably play at all.
With 2 joint practices, those are games.
Yeah, and I think that's what the coaches are looking for. And being at that Niners practice last year, just you could feel it being different than a normal practice. And when we were with the Chiefs back in the day, aside from the massive amounts of fights we had with Jared Allen and et al. In Kansas City, down over River Falls way, the energy, because you had this idea that this was now a competition. Where I'm going against my own guys. I'm going against Matty Burke and Hutch, day after day after day in situations, and it sort of turns into a little bit of a brother-in-law approach.
Yeah.
But now we're going to play the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, last year we're going to play the Niners, a really good team. We knew they're going to be good. It's going to be a great competition for us to see what we have, and that's now the preseason game where you get to throw some things around in a more controlled environment where you can kind of control some reps and kind of control what happens, and it's just probably a better setup.
Now,
but we ate a lot of seeds
on the sideline. So you never sneaked any food. If you did
snuck food all the time.
Really? So if there were 3 hot dogs that were
gone,
really?
Unless Pat Williams found them first,
and you wouldn't get in trouble.
No, not at all. No. I mean, you have to be smart about it. You can't be out in the open. But yeah, I mean, bags and bags of seeds. And really the focus became how you help the young guys and in your position group, can you get those guys ready when those younger guys win, especially in the first couple games, it was very basic stuff. So here's the reads, here's what to look for, here's the call, and you kind of focused on that, and then you have a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is Chad Greenway, courtesy of Grey Duck Vodka and Grey Duck Spirits, and this is 9 to noon on a Friday football feast. You mentioned River Falls and Jared Allen, and back in the day, former Vikings tight end Hunter Goodwin, triggering fights against the Kansas City Chiefs, and Laquan Treadwell and Jabari Price down in Mankato when he body slammed him. I mean, I've seen some of that. You've seen a ton of it. And probably as much behind the scenes because minds and bodies are tired and broken down. They're trying to win spots, get deals done away from families. People get frustrated. Well, I brought this up early in the week, and Ben Gessling, who covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune, he'll be here at 10 o'clock. I'm asking the same thing. But for you actually on the field as a combatant during the course of the battle, during last year's training camp and then so far through now, there are no fights. I mean, there's nothing close to a civil war of like Nick Easton. Okay, remember Nick Easton at Mankato,
just pot stir,
getting under the skin of every defensive lineman, some of the biggest named defensive linemen on the team, and they're basically about ready to unfurl a Donnybrook and just go at it. But there would be a few punches thrown, they wouldn't connect and stuff like that. There's nothing close to that takes place here. They're
not fatigued. There's no two-a-days.
That's a fair point. But
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a completely different schedule.
There's no Norv yelling at Taylor Heineke, get rid of the effing ball. I mean,
I wish we had him back.
You don't. There's yelling, but it's not yelling in admonishment in front of everybody. Kind of tearing people down. Why do you think that is?
Well, everything's changed. I mean, the mentality's changed around the league. The athletes that are coming into the league are different and have a different personality to them. And in college, you have guys coming in that are essentially being free agents in college ball, right? So what a coach, you can't tell them the honest to God truth because they'll leave on the portal on the first thing smoking for a bigger NIL deal.
Crazy.
I mean, you got to think it's a different world these kids are coming into now. The league's changed in so many different ways. The guys who were playing in the 60s and 70s and 80s had 2 days for a month, and they beat the absolute bejesus out of each other, and they just showed up and played whoever was left of them. And, we had 2 days for a couple, I think up to a week, where you could do 2 padded practices in a row. Well, that was gone in, 2012? And now it's less and less and less.
That was like 10 to noon or something like that. And then chill, break, meetings, food.
You
and
do
then
like a 5 to 7. You could do a 3 to 5. You could do a night practice, a 7 to 9. And
think about it. Seriously, how difficult was it sometimes? And you were and you're highly conditioned now, but you were a highly conditioned athlete, fast, could jump, all the measurables. But still, man, it doesn't matter. In the early stages of training camp, bodies and minds get broken down, and then you got to get all the stuff on again and get out there and do it again. And it's still 98 heat index. I mean, that had to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, after, yes, the old adage is you're making a lot of money, you're having fun, you're playing the game that everybody loves, so you strap it on and go do it. You do love it, but you don't love it about day 5 or 2 days when that second practice is coming and there's nowhere to hide, right? And coaches are coming in with another short yardage and goal line situation, and you're absolutely beat up, and you want no part of it.
Coaches are all excited about some new age play they drew up, and guys,
but it's not going to work.
You're tired, you want to look at your phone, your body hurts.
Yeah, the thing that always got me as a linebacker was always my hands. Because day one, inevitably, is year 6. Day one, you're going to mangle a finger that was mangled for the last 2 years. And that finger wouldn't be better until January when the season was over. And you just had to deal with that every day. And you had to buddy tape it to the other finger. And it's just this constant battle of swelling and, taking the swelling out and back to the training room and just battling all the time. And those little things kind of add up. And obviously always trying to hope to avoid the big one. And all the while trying to stay on top, stay in your position, stay the starter. So many things coming at you, but I wouldn't change a thing. And all I can say is so glad to be done.
Well, speaking of avoiding the big one. So first round pick guy, middle of the first round, and needed like air for this defense at the time. Wonderful training camp in 06, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 06. Well, I mean, we've said it before, very first play of preseason, Metrodome, Oakland Raiders are in town, 5-2 tears his ACL. In losing what you had worked so hard for that season, were you one that when you came back, you thought about it? You were concerned that it would happen again? Or is it the other side where I've seen what the bottom looks like here, where they're all having fun, I'm out and I'm around it, but I'm not really in it or part of it, even though I am, but I'm not? Or was that, you saw that very early, so you kind of know what that sadness and darkness looks like, thus you could build off it to ascend?
Well, you knew it could be taken away from you at any moment. That's the key. And the other thing I had an advantage in is I already had an ACL in college. So I had come back from it, played for 4 years, came back, popped the other one. So now I had them both. And now I was, newfangled, new knees, away we go.
Is that amazing pain when it happens?
No, not really. It's like a burn.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a pop and a burn. And some guys stay stable. Some get wobbly. You can't walk on it. It gives out. It's nasty. It's gnarly. It sucks.
But it does pop.
Yeah, it's not like a, I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's like an interior pop. Yeah. And it's a burn. Hey. And you just, for the second time when I'm sitting on the sidelines at the Metrodome, in that Raiders game, I had done it. I knew what it was. I knew it was done. And my biggest thing was, had no idea what the contract meant, what the language meant, had no idea, the fact that I was a first round pick, thank goodness, because it kept my opportunities in front of me. And when I came back and got through that year, it was a long year, mentally grinding, But I knew that the team had my back being that high of a pick, and that was a huge advantage. Same thing like Lewis Seen. I mean,
yeah,
they got your back. They've invested a lot in you based off what you'd done.
Mm-hmm.
And now I had in the back of my mind that you knew it could be taken from you. So you didn't take anything for granted. But once I got, they essentially handed me that position in the offseason because it was mine essentially to give up.
Yeah.
So all the pressure was to perform. Didn't think about any other injury. Didn't think about doing it again. It was simply because you just were worried about playing well and staying on the field and impacting the game, and that's really what the focus was.
Are you Chad Greenway, former linebacker for the Vikings? Great vodka, great spirits. Thank you. Are you in any way surprised Cousins is heading into his last year of a deal and could become a free agent in like just half a year? Does that surprise you in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I got to speak with Kirk just briefly before practice started last night, and just what's amazing is his mentality just around the game and his approach. I mean, he's 2 minutes from jumping on the field and starting his practice. Me and the girls walk by, and he's got nothing but questions to me about the kids and what they're doing and where they're at, and yada yada yada. His approach is it's genuine. The quarterback show. I mean, just shows that. My admiration for him has grown exponentially in the last 2 years. And I think a lot of it started with the position he put this football team in week after week after week last season, against a defense that wasn't performing, in tight games and got to have it moments in 2-minute situations. He constantly gave this team a chance to win. And when they didn't, of course, at the end, he throws the bad pass. We get beat out, yada, 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 against the Giants. And, how much of that is on him? Yeah, that play was on him. But how many of those games did he put us in that situation?
Yeah.
So the fact that we're now at this point where we're going to pay the
toughness.
The mentality.
Everybody on the team, because quarterback, hey, let me get this straight. You get the red jersey, so we can't hit you. You got the most money. You're the quarterback, so you're most in control of the game. But then after about the 20 whatever sack and another 40 hits where he gets rid of it.
Yep.
Well, so teammates who play different positions, specifically defensive and offensive linemen and linebackers, people compensated to bang. Isn't it true they gain a lot of respect for a person like that who constantly bounces back from being smacked?
Absolutely. The leadership that he shows and just his ability to get back up off the turf and go back to the huddle and not complain, right? He's not going to be a guy coming by the sidelines and saying, woe is me. It's just not going to be his approach. Now, what I'll say, the most important thing I think is you're going to invest $250 billion, probably close to it, in your star receiver, your stud.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely throwing money into the wind if you don't have a guy that can throw in the football.
Agreed.
And I just don't know. I'm not the financial guy. I'm not the legend that is Rob Brzezinski, but he'll find a way. And I got to believe, if Kirk will give him the fair shot to get this extension or to get something going, he's got no motivation to do it now other than want to be here and have stability.
Right.
Because he can go anywhere he wants next year for as much money as he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if he comes off a big year. So you got a motivated Kirk, which is great for Vikings fans.
Yep.
But do you have no security moving forward for your $200 million receiver? And that's the part that concerns me the most.
Now, from The Athletic, I found this a couple of days ago. 50 total NFL GMs, executives, head coaches, and coordinators were peppered. And they came up with quarterback tiers. Now, The Athletic, led by Mike Sando, does this yearly at about this time. It's very intriguing the way they break down their deduction and what went into their tiers. And the first tier, so tier 1 quarterbacks in the NFL, according to this piece: Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, and Justin Herbert. That was tier 1. The first player in tier 2 was Jalen Hurts. So I'd like to ask you this: Herbert over Jalen Hurts? I'm not a fan of that.
Not a fan of that at all. And why does that happen? Is there some language beyond it to explain why?
I can't exactly remember what it was, but it basically, Herbert is such a shiny toy, and he's more of a polarizing player than Jalen.
LA. He's in LA.
You got that too.
Yeah, big time. And and all those people have one thing in common other than him is they've won at a high level.
Yeah.
And
let's not forget Jalen in the Super Bowl. He had some mistakes, but he was unbelievable.
As why Jalen should be flipped with him.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, he's a tier 1 quarterback. Now,
he's a problem is what he is. He's an absolute problem defensively.
Absolutely. Off the Cousins conversation, he was tier 2.
Yeah.
And Cousins was ranked 12th. behind the likes of Stafford, Deshaun Watson, and Lamar Jackson. Now,
what
do you prefer Kirk
behind Deshaun Watson?
Behind Deshaun Watson, right? That's prognosticating. Deshaun was terrible last year, but I can understand why. Deshaun is very gifted, moves around like Roethlisberger had like some sneaky slide to him, big as he was.
Yep.
Deshaun's big. He's got that sneaky slide to him. He'll run a little more than people think. So, I can
good deep ball, but can he throw the intermediate routes? Nothing close to what Kirk can do. Nothing as consistently.
But Lamar Jackson over Kirk. And what do you think of the 12 spot status for the quarterback?
I think, if we can pick and choose, but it's too low for Kirk, in my opinion. I think he's got to be top 10. Probably that 9th or 10th spot, and those two guys you just mentioned would move him into number 10, and I think that'd be a good move I would make.
Yeah, see, I'm not, and I'm willing to concede that I may be too down on Kyler Murray. There are things about him that bug me.
Where was he at?
But the learned executives have Jared Goff behind Kyler Murray, something to which I object. Jared Goff at 15, in my estimation, is just a little too low. But if you think it's fair, he shouldn't be behind Kyler Murray, who throws punts. He throws punts. They just go high in the air and they come down, and somebody catches it on the other team. And there they go.
They're obviously putting a big emphasis on the athleticism of the quarterback position, which defensively is hard to obviously contain and hard to plan for and prepare for, because as soon as that guy gets out of the pocket, he can send plays. He can make things happen. But reality is you got to Goff is maybe a different animal to me than Kirk. But Goff obviously
gets shortchanged too much.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that.
It was like 4,500 passing yards last year. His career touchdown to interception ratio is better than 2-1. His career yards per attempt is 7.5.
Yeah,
he has a winning record, and he went and he guided a team to a Super Bowl. I think because he's either in the Motor City and quiet and maybe a little bland in the estimation of some. Maybe that plays into why he does not get the credit I think he deserves.
Let's check in week 10, right? Week 9 to see how these things are going.
For sure. Grey Duck Vodka this weekend, today. Anything going on?
Nothing special going on this weekend. Obviously, end of summer is coming up. August, kids are back to school here. Enjoy your cabins. Big weekend. Looks like maybe some rain.
Twins got the money last night.
Which was awesome.
What I'm leading to is a playoff series with home games on steamy days or nights and Bomba juice flowing.
Man, Grey Duck team is big Twins fans, and we want the Grey Duck deck to be hopping and popping, hopefully for some October baseball.
I appreciate you, man. Have a good weekend.
You bet. Thank you.
Chad Greenway and Grey Duck Vodka and Grey Duck Spirits, TimberTech and TimberTech.com. Thank you for the What's on Deck 9 to noon, which includes Vikes Bites around the corner. Ben Gessling, a learned scribe who covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune at 10 o'clock, and much more in the final hour. And your 9 to noon Minnesota Vikings training camp nugget for this portion of the radio show is that offensive lineman Chris Reed is on the mend, but looked fine walking around on the sideline last night, so the assumption is he'll return soon. That's what's trending on the iHeart Sports Network
iHeart Radio app.
Yes, sir.
Time for Vikes Bites. Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites.
Presented by Stoked Barbecue Pellets, StokedBBQ.com. You can find them in so many places now, but that's the website. StokedBBQ.com is the place to start. And we shall start with the night practice last evening. I found this audio clip from the head coach, Kevin O'Connell, talking about needing a more physical brand in camp, and here he is talking about that.
Last year we played a Sunday preseason one, and this year we're playing a West Coast Thursday night preseason one. So essentially lose 3 days of kind of that early camp feel that you can have. So I had to tell them, and there's really no secrets here. I emphasized to those guys why and how it had to be different, told them the reasons behind it, but then, hey, I need you guys to meet me in the middle on that with a physical camp and understanding that when we go. We got to maximize both on the field and then what takes place in the meeting rooms after that. And the guys have been great.
So whether it was last night at the night practice or training camp thus far, PA, if you quickly put that aside, going back to last year, you and I discussed this during the joints with the San Francisco 49ers. In some ways, just how much more physical the Niners looked in the joint practices and maybe the philosophical differences that existed between Shanahan's group and our group. Now, fast forward a year, as you hear the reasoning, you're missing 3 days because of when the first preseason game lands and all of that. Have you noticed, if you're able to put last year in your head and match it up with camp thus far, a more physical brand in camp?
No, because I don't. You laid it out perfectly. I remember what you were saying with the Niners, but I also remember in that Niners joint practice, the San Francisco 49ers could not cover Justin Jefferson or the Minnesota Vikings pass. And it was a common thread, receivers getting behind that defense even when Bosa would come rushing. But so therefore it's not conflating or overvaluing that, because the Niners are going to be good and squared away. Now, so therefore, when it comes to a more physical brand, when the question is, do I notice it? The answer is no, but it's there because inherently this is a physical game, and the thing here with what you're saying is it's just abundantly apparent to me, and last night it was quite vivid. The defense, the offense is facing. Again, we ain't talking 85 Bears or 2,000 Ravens, but it's different. It's so stimulating to watch because it's different, markedly, dramatically different than anything I've ever seen. Leslie Frazier with the Tampa 2. Rush 4, drop 7. Hopefully wreak havoc with 69, Ray Edwards or B-Rob. Zimmer with the mugging of the A-gap blitzes, the feigning of it, the nickel blitz with Mackenzie Alexander, the way coverage was dictated and taught, because Mike is not only an elite defensive mind, but an elite defensive backs mind when it comes to the technique and the footwork and the hips and everything. So there was that and the way it was executed. This is just different. I mean, there was a play last night, at least one play, where you had 3 or 4 down linemen, and then there's the snap. Kirk's out of shotgun, and I think it was Lowry and somebody else. They fake a rush, and they just stand up in the middle. And the offensive linemen do I engage? And they just put their hands up.
Yeah.
And what they do is they compromise middle vision. So it's, I can tell one of the things that's important to Brian Flores that, it's hard to explain, and asking a question about it is even more difficult. But it's just getting the quarterback for just quick.
Yeah.
To do something different. So you're like, wait, I thought you guys were going to rush. Wait, your hands are up. Oh, hey, incomplete, 2nd and 10. There are just so many little tricks to this thing that I haven't seen that aren't going to be like down by down tricks. But that might neutralize physicality between offensive and defensive lines, because the offense still is really, really vigilant in figuring out where this rush is coming from and how many are dropping. So therefore, that's slowed things just a little,
Quick add-on to that. Harrison Smith. All I've been reading about, things that I've seen in certain spots. Harrison Smith, he's lurking again.
Yeah.
He's all over the place again.
Yeah.
3 times in his career, he has had 3 sacks in a season. Last year, he had 0, which was the first time since his 2nd year in the league. 2.5. Over or under for the Hitman?
Under, because you need him. He's so smart that you need him faking and feigning, and then in floating lurk fashion, getting to exactly where he needs to get quickly. And this is not saying, with all due respect, Harrison is not as fast now as he was 10 years ago.
True.
But that doesn't mean he can't get into the backfield and hit somebody. So that may happen. Because obviously, I haven't even seen 80% of this, and whatever I do see, half of it I don't understand. But like last night, I saw something for the first time 2 times, and that was Byron Murphy blitzing from the nickel spot.
Whoa.
And it wasn't just stand there and fake, here I come. No, it was full run, like with a loop. And one of them Cousins would have been smashed. He did not see it coming, and the other forced him to throw it early. All right. Well, I don't expect to see that in practice for a week and a half, because I can just tell, it's for the sarcasm or the joking or the teasing or whatever, with the respect level that Flores has with his defense. I mean, he is super well respected, and he's well respected not necessarily because it's the 85 Bears reincarnate. It's how he handles man and how he has these guys so wound up over. Everybody says the offense is 10 times better. Everybody says, and I'm not saying he says this, but I'm paraphrasing. Everybody thinks we are the absolute liability for this team. And he just has them wound up to be on point with what they're doing. And I'll just repeat what I said to 5-2. This is the most vocal, childlike exuberance being displayed by Harrison Smith, at least on the sideline and working with these guys. I can't remember the last time it was like this, because Harry's on the quiet side. And now we go back to when he took that deal and the adjusted money. We said, well, this is clear, a scholar of the game. If Harrison Smith were to walk away from football under the cover of darkness, I wouldn't be surprised. He's just like that. It wouldn't be anything personal. It's just he has interests outside of here, and he has plenty of cash, and he's young. But you could just tell the scholar of the game, one of the smartest people I've met in football, is so stimulated and so intrigued by what's happening here with the schemes that he's thrown it back to like days where like the childlike exuberance is easy to find.
I love that. Last thing for you then as we wrap up Vikes Bites. The defensive line, is there a member of the front that by any stretch is standing out? And that can be difficult because so much of it is based in individual drills.
Yeah.
And so maybe, because you got Ivan Pace. Wow, it's so cool that he's overcoming the size-related issue.
Yeah.
This corner is looking the part.
Yeah.
Oh, Lewis Seen made a huge play, that kind of thing. Now, without actually being in games, it's difficult to analyze.
I know what you mean.
I need something other than just being excited that Danielle Hunter's back.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know more about that those inside guys, and hopefully one's popping at some point.
Well, Dean Lowry is a beefeater, and he's incredibly strong. And, when they signed Dean Lowry for, the adulation and the bouquets that I would throw at him, because low-key he's like one of my favorite players the last 10 years in the game, because you would go to Green Bay and focus on Preston and Za'Darius and HaHa Clinton-Dix and Jair Alexander and Kenny Clark. And then it would be Dean Lowry and Tyler Lancaster who would ruin the games. So therefore, he was on my radar because of that, and I just like the way he plays. But what sticks out about him is holding the point. He's very, very strong. So therefore, when the two metaphorical rams meet on the prairie and they stand up, and now it's a tug of war, it's push and push, he doesn't move. I mean, he holds that point, and I can tell that's a very important role in this defense. Holding the point of one offensive lineman so others around him can execute tricks.
Okay.
So that's what jumps out at me at this moment is Dean Lowry's strength. Because, it's like I can be a fan, but I'm not breaking down his all 22. I don't know if he's a better rusher or if he's better against the run or just how strong he is. I've learned how strong he is. He has country strength where he's just so strong that he'll hold that point, and I have to believe that is done so that others, as they say in the business, can eat. Those are Vikes Bites. If you missed it earlier, Vikes Bites are provided by
Stoked Barbecue Pellets, StokedBBQ.com.
Kirk Cousins, the cut-up, was on display again last night. We'll explain that and continue to navigate our way through this Friday football feast at FM 100.3 KFAN.
On the Fan.
This is your 9 to noon Minnesota Vikings training camp nugget update. Cornerback Byron Murphy Jr. is quite good at blitzing off the edge and as a nickel, And that inherently only will help the unpredictability of the Minnesota Vikings defense this season. That's what's trending on the vast and ever-expanding iHeart Sports Network. I'm Eric Dickerson.
That's a great setup, Bob.
9 to noon.
With the press conference playback we unfurled yesterday, one of them involved Minnesota Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins. And it was polarizing on several levels with several things. But one of the things that jumped out at me was when Kirk, said that when he heads out to practice or he heads out to the field, he's just trying to be the most positive person that he possibly can be, especially when it's hot and you approach the midway point of training camp. Now you got some games coming up and stuff, and these joint practices he recognizes, because he's a crafty veteran, that bodies are tired and minds can wane, and from a mental tenacity standpoint, the gifts have to be unfurled, and you really need to push through things to be able to be as close to 100% with your execution as possible. And Kirk recognizes, as he said, I'll come out there and I'll cut loose with some jokes to try to loosen things up. And they're not always the greatest jokes in the world, but, he does it to try to get people to loosen up, and maybe even in turn getting himself to loosen up. And that very much was the case last night. And at TCO Stadium with the night practice, and they have another one Tuesday, and Nordo and Saucy, I believe. Robbie Rosenau's with you.
Yeah, I'm sure Robbie will find his way there.
That triumvirate, that trifecta will be executing radio Tuesday night from TCO Stadium, so there will be plenty to learn there. Maybe you'll be able to hear it with the sideline microphones or the parabolics that we use exclusively for Saturdays with Sauce. But being on the sideline last night and, really as close to the players as I and some others are going to get during the course of training camp, walking up to the regular season, well, it was interesting to hear in the press conference playback and Kirk say that, that I want to cut these people up, man. I mean, the jokes ain't the greatest in the world sometimes, but nevertheless, I want to keep everybody loose. So I actually caught a couple of the jokes last night and
you did?
Quickly jotted them down in the notes in my phone because we saw it in action. And we heard Kirk say it earlier, 9 to noon, but he was doing it last night. And the first one I heard him unfurl was, a duck walks into a bar and buys everyone around. He tells the bartender, put it on my bill. Well, that's the collective offensive line feigning interest in that joke unfurled by Kirk. All right. Well, there actually was a little laughter with that. So then they come back to the sideline. Out goes Nick Mullins and then Jaron Hall and, Cousins bouncing around. He's all excited and everything. And crowd behind him is supporting him off the, not only is he our quarterback, but he's actually quite good, actually quite clutch, as we will learn later, 9 to noon. And the Netflix quarterback piece, people saw a side of Kirk Cousins that genuinely is Kirk Cousins. And that means as a leader and a quarterback, keeping everybody loose as the leader of the team. The second one that I heard him cut loose with last night was, I'm pretty sure I wrote it down right. My neighbor gave me a roof for free. He said it was on the house. What has a spine but no bones? A book. The best one took place about 3/4 of the way through practice because Blake Prohl sadly went down back center of the end zone, bounced out of it okay, and was walking around as the introductions were taking place and walked off on his own power and stuff like that. But, there was a quasi-pall that was cast over the sideline. And, well, Kirk, the cut-up, immediately recognized this is where the leadership skills that God gave me, they need to be executed because there are some people tense. And at that moment, the man who likes to crack jokes to try to loosen things up. Well, Kirk said, how did Vikings communicate with one another? By Norse code. How do ghosts stay in shape? They exercise. I mean, the man's arsenal of jokes is they're not of the Bill Burr, Richard Pryor, Stephen Wright-like fashion, but I think they're good enough to cut up a bunch of kids and keep them loose, don't you?
Or are you kidding me? I heard one. Now, I was up in the stands, so I'm not sure if I heard this right, but you were there, PA. Did you hear this one? Did you guys know it's illegal to laugh out loud in Hawaii?
Wow.
You have to keep it to aloha.
Yeah. I didn't hear that one.
Oh.
I mean, that just loosens me up right now.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it either. The last one that I heard was, what was it? It was Benjamin. I typed it in wrong here, but assumedly it's Benjamin Franklin. And I'm pretty sure because Kirk's voice was cracking at this stage after the 39th, ready, his voice started to crack a little bit. So that's why it made it difficult from an audible level to completely hear it, but I think I got it. Kirk, cutting up the team because that's what he does, said, how did Benjamin Franklin feel when he discovered electricity? He was shocked. Hey, that's pretty good, eh? How about that, eh? How about that, eh?
Yeah, the only other one that I heard was, and it was brilliant because it loops Julie Cousins into the joke as well.
Yeah.
And he was talking to Jordan Addison and, noise canceling headphones. And he said, Jordan, my wife was absolutely livid when she found out that I invested a ton of our savings into Bose.
Whoa.
But I told her it was a sound investment.
That is so good. And then you know what? Addison was so loose and so fancy free, went out there and caught one for 35.
Did you see that deep post run he made? That was after the joke.
If there isn't the Bose joke and the sound investment, that play does not happen. Now, speaking of jokes like that in closing, I'm sure with Ava and Stella, you'll joke around with them and you'll make them laugh and daddy, because you're teasing or something like that. That's just what people do with their children. With my kids, when they were, let's say 10 and 8 or maybe 11 and 9, if you consider those Kirk cut-ups to be, quote, dad jokes, I think the best dad joke that I ever unfurled on them was this. Is I sat them down at the kitchen table. They're 10 and 8 or 11 and 9. And I had a really serious look on my face. And I paused and I said, Coley, Derek, there's something that we need to discuss. I went to the doctor's today and, so now their faces fall and they're like, what's up, Dad? And I said, it's difficult to talk about. Let me gather myself. Well, he said, the problem is I have a crack in my butt. And they thought that was the greatest thing they've ever heard in their lives. And by the way, that's what's trending on the iHeart Sports Network